Hey, everybody, welcome back to another podcast here at Tar Heel 24/7. I'm publisher Andrew Jones, and this is our first foray into football recruiting now that we've done the new launch on the new platform at 24/7 and CBS Sports. And with me, I'm really excited for you guys to meet Seth Gutman. He is our director of football recruiting. He's got a very interesting background, which I think will make his coverage unique. Very few people in the business have been on the other side of the recruitment. I'm not talking players being recruited. I'm talking recruiting offices. Seth is a University of Michigan graduate. He spent some time in the Michigan football recruiting office working under Jim Harbaugh, spent some time at Georgia Tech, and more recently in football recruiting, he was at Carolina, learning under Pat Suttis and Mac Brown. He also spent some time doing spreadsheets and a lot of cool stuff at MLB.com. He's not just a one-trick pony with football. He's very wide-ranging with all the different sports that he's interested in and knows about, and he's a spreadsheet guy. And when I say spreadsheet guy, I mean he's a spreadsheet guy. He's information personified. So I would like to introduce you and welcome to Tar Heel 24/7, Seth Gutman. What's up, Seth?
Hey, Andrew. No, I'm really excited to be here. And I'll give a little bit of a background of my time with UNC in the recruiting department and just give you a little bit of behind the scenes of some of the cool stuff that I got to be a part of.
Now, before we go any further, last time you and I were on a Zoom, which wasn't recorded, you were wearing a Cincinnati Reds hat. And I remember to ask, hey, you from Ohio? Now you're wearing a Yankees hat. You have a lot of hats. You're a baseball guy, right?
I'm a baseball guy. I am a lifelong Yankees fan. Not exactly thrilled with the team right now, but we don't have to get into that. Yeah, the Orioles have had
not being thrilled. Good gracious.
Yeah. The Reds hat's a long, different story. Let's just say that I accepted a job with the Cincinnati Reds 3 days before COVID shut down the entire world. So that's one of those that's one of those what ifs there. Just to, I guess, give a little insight how I got to Carolina. I mean, during COVID, everything shut down, and I'm thinking to myself, what can I do to better my resume while all of us are stuck in the house, doing nothing? And I started reaching out to all these Division I college football teams, and I said, here's my background. I previously worked in the recruiting department at Michigan, and I have this crazy passion for football and, putting things on spreadsheets like you mentioned. And would any of this be of interest to you? And Pat and Mike Gregory at Georgia Tech were like, yeah, let's do this. And for a good year and a half during COVID, I was helping Georgia Tech out remotely from my house with recruiting projects and gathering information and anything that I could do to make life easier for them. And then Pat took the job as GM at UNC, and I reached out and I said, Pat, now that COVID's over, I'd love to come in person and help you guys out. And that was really the origin of how I got there.
Now, you shared with me a wonderful story. I kind of teased it with a podcast Jacob and I did after practice on Saturday, but I'm going to let you tell it. It's such a cool story. My wife doesn't know anything about recruiting, but I told my wife and she said, oh, that's neat. That's really cool. So I want you to tell the story that you told me about a specific someone that you were looking at film and everything has kind of materialized the way it has. Take it away.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the really cool things about the way that Pat and Mac kind of had the recruiting department organized is anybody at any time could, put out an evaluation, say, I've got a guy, you watch film of a guy, they're not going to put you down just because, you're not, top dog in the office. So one of our responsibilities as an analyst is we had to maintain this email account for the, generic email account for recruiting for UNC. And one day, we just got an email from a coach being like, hey, here's this kid, can you watch his film? He's good. And, most of the time you get those kinds of things and it's, no offense, but guys who probably shouldn't be playing D1 college football.
Yeah.
But I always like to take the due diligence there, throw on a few plays, see, is this guy good or not? And I threw on that film and immediately I was like, this guy's a blur. He's really fast. Now, of course, it was also a little funny because half the video was shot from outside the stadium, in the parking lot or like on the track on the other side or something, and trees were kind of like obscuring like half the screen on some of the plays. But still, you could see this guy just flying up and down the field making plays. And I put in an evaluation there and I said, this kid's pretty good. Let's take a look at this. And I got into the office the next day, and like a couple of our guys in the recruiting department are already like, yeah, this kid's pretty good. He's pretty fast. And within a week's time, that kid who had only a VMI offer in his senior season at this point, I think it was like late September, early October of his senior year, got an offer from UNC and started to blow up. He picked up like Virginia Tech and South Carolina, Michigan State, a few other schools in the Power Five at the time. And that kid was Isaiah Johnson, who then wound up committing to Michigan State. He didn't go to UNC right away. A lot of that was because we were looking for him on defense, and he seemed more interested in playing offense. And also, Dre Bly was recruiting him, and he was let go, close to signing day. But yeah, he went to Michigan State for a couple years, and now how cool is it? Full circle, he's now a North Carolina Tar Heel.
So when I'm at practice, we had 18 minutes to witness practice the other day. So there wasn't a whole lot you could take in. But fortunately, some position groups were right in front of us. Wide receivers were 15, 20 feet away. And who jumped out at me was Mr. Johnson. I was watching him, and I was thinking about the story that you told me. I wanted to see that blur. I thought maybe if I got behind a tree, I might see him better, because that's how you discovered him. But that's a phenomenal story. And the reason I wanted you to tell everybody that, because that's an indicator of how you view athletes, how you view potential college football players. You can evaluate them. You evaluated him when he would have been thrown in the scrap. Obviously, he had been thrown in the scrap heap by a lot of other programs to that point, and he ends up playing major college football. So you have an eye for it, and you have proven that you can get a major program with a Hall of Fame coach, and Pat Suddes is great at what he does, to offer that kid. And that's what you bring to Tar Heel 24/7. That's what you bring to the recruiting front, as far as contacting players and being able to interview them and get all that kind of information is one thing, but you also can tell everybody and show everybody what's like on the other side, and know what certain aspects of the recruitment mean from the program. A lot of times kids get offered, and we wonder, is that a committable offer or not? A lot of times kids get offered, programs will stack certain ones. There are a lot of just in case situations. You have the ability to discern a lot of that a lot of people in this industry don't have. And I'm really excited over the course of time just to kind of see how you handle that. And I think our readers, our listeners, our subscribers will certainly look at it the same way. So with that said, Seth, let's jump in to three recent commitments for North Carolina. They had three in bunches. In fact, two happened our first day. So here I am thinking we had a pretty good plan for content. All of a sudden, boom, boom. We knew one was happening. I guess we knew both were happening. But with 12:01 midnight, Thursday night, Friday morning happening, it was spinning head big time. And it's like, oh, yeah, there's Carson Sneed. Oh, yeah, there's another one. So let's go through these three. We're going to start with the 226 kids, and then we'll hit Amir Brown, class of 27, who just popped here the other day. I guess it was Sunday he popped. Let's go to Carson Sneed, 6'6", 248 pounds, 3-star tight end out of Donaldson Christian Academy, Nashville, Tennessee. He flipped from Tennessee. A lot of flipping going on with the class of 26 here in the last few days. Very quickly, a couple of other offers. He had Alabama, Florida State, LSU, Michigan, Ohio State. So what are your thoughts on them bringing in Carson Sneed, and how do you think he plays out moving forward with the program?
Yeah, no doubt. First off, brother of Dayton Sneed, who just transferred in from Tennessee as well. So both the guys leaving Tennessee to join the Tar Heels. Big dude, like legitimately looks like on the film like a legitimate big target that'll be fun for the quarterbacks to throw to. But he moves pretty damn well for a guy his size. Like it seems like almost every single play on his huddle, he's trying to cut back like 2 or 3 times across the field. Also plays a little bit of defense where you can see why coaches look at him and are like, man, this kid's long as hell. Like we could potentially use him out there, but thought his pad level is a little high. But if he's playing tight end, I don't think that kind of stuff will be as much of an issue. One thing that I did find a little interesting is there's really not a lot of blocking on his huddle, which, sometimes when you see a kid like intentionally not have something on there, you kind of make an inference there, but I'm sure with the kind of frame that he has, he'll be able to learn how to block. If he can't do it right now, give or take a year or two. But yeah, this is the fourth tight end commit in this cycle, which I think is notable. I'm sure you can speak to this pretty well. Like, this tight end room really needs an overhaul after some of the bodies that left this past year. Yeah. So it seems like they're putting a real emphasis on bulking up the numbers there. And this is a pretty good piece to have to the room, I can tell you that.
Any chance he plays D? Because they brought in a guy named Bo Atkinson a few years ago who played both tight end and played defensive end a lot and was very good at both. He was rated more as a tight end, obviously, or as a defensive end, rather. Came in as defensive end, only played defense. But when we talked to him a couple of times before he arrived in Chapel Hill, he kind of flirted with the idea of, I can play tight end. I might want to catch the ball and score some touchdowns and all that kind of stuff. Is Carson Sneed strictly coming in tight end? They're not going to deal with the defensive side?
I would lean towards, stay on offense. But like I said, like, he's a big, long body that you could see like a defensive coach like dreaming of. If we really put the work in, in a couple years, maybe he could be something. So listen, I'm not going to close the door. There's always a possibility, but I would think right now tight end room is what they're trying to beef up.
I'm going to butcher this, so pardon me. Viliami Moala, 6'3", 340 pounds. They flipped him from Oregon, defensive lineman. He's been at a couple previous high schools. He is now at Thompson High School in Alabama. Thompson High School has produced a ton of players. Carolina's had a couple of them in recent years. I said flip from Oregon. He also had been offered by Miami, Oklahoma, Tennessee, UCLA, USC. A lot of West Coast stuff because that's where he spent most of his time. What are your thoughts on him? You don't have to say the name. We're going to get we've been looking for the proper pronunciation, just so everybody knows. We're going to have to talk to him on the phone to get that. So we'll get that soon. But what are your thoughts on them flipping a guy from Oregon?
Yeah, no doubt. He was also committed to USC, believe it or not. I believe the timeline was he was committed to USC after a visit last September. And then a month later, he visited Oregon for, I think, their game against Ohio State, and he flipped to them. But he was committed to them for almost like half a year. And for whatever reason, UNC was able to get him on campus and interested. He's a good-looking prospect, really good. Big guy, violent player. Like, you could really tell that guy has like nasty intentions on the football field, which is something that I'm sure Bill Belichick and that defensive staff loved when turning it on. But for a guy his size, sometimes you'll see someone who is like, they're too stiff. Like, everything of their game is like straight ahead, or, they can't really move laterally. But this kid has some legit agility to his game too. So he's not a one-trick pony, and he's got a lot going for him. My concern would be a lot of the stuff we've already kind of mentioned here is he's been committed now to 3 schools, and he's been to like 4 high schools. So, whether it's fair or not, there is, a little bit of an indication that he's willing to change what school he's at. So this is going to be one I would assume UNC is going to have to stay on all the way to signing day just to make sure he's in the boat. And it might even be one, just the way the college game is today, that even when he gets to campus, you're going to have to make sure, because kids are flight risks, all the time these days. But for where this defensive tackle room is right now, he's a talent you can't pass up.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask you. This is an example of where, having been on that side and in those discussions, and you understand that there are some kids they know that are locked. You still got to recruit them. You don't want to give kids an opportunity to get wowed by somebody else, obviously. But I was thinking, when you're talking, they're going to have to recruit him every day. Like this is the offer day. This is the offer moment, right up to signing day. And of course, once he gets there, you got to get him on campus. But what is the difference in how a program recruits a kid that must continue to be recruited even after he commits? Is it the same mojo? Is there a different approach to a kid like that?
I mean, I think every kid is kind of different, right? Like, there's some kids that like love the attention. Like, if you send them a text every single day, they're all about that. And some just want to be kind of left on their own. They get it. Like, yeah, I'm committed to your school. You can check in every now and then, but you don't have to worry about me. It's really just like a case by case kind of thing. Because sometimes you can smother a kid and then they're like, man, this is too much. But yeah, it's It really just is about like understanding what the player is all about and their personalities and kind of adjusting your recruiting style based on that.
That's 35 commits, by the way, for Carolina's class of 2026. Easily the most ever in program history. Things have obviously changed. I think the most prior to the way things have expanded the last couple of years was maybe 28 since I've been covering Carolina recruiting in some capacity when I took over at the previous site, which was a lot. So they're at 35 now, probably going to get a few more as well. Amir Brown is the second commit for the class of 2027. Skylar Robinson, the younger brother of Jason Robinson, wide receiver, transferred in last winter from Washington. Skylar was the first one to commit about a month after his brother got here in Chapel Hill. So the Robinson family from LA loves Chapel Hill. Amir Brown is nearby. He's local from Roseville High School, about 12 minutes from where I live right now. He's been on the radar for a long time. I mean, he was on the radar, I imagine, when you were in the office. They were, even though he was a rising freshman, I remember he was at a camp and there were some write-ups about him and you keep hearing his name. And I remember I was, in Philadelphia, I think it was, for the Sweet 16 regional final. And my recruiting person at the time sent in a story about him. I'm like, who's this guy? Can we really write about him? And she said, keep an eye on him. He's going to be a really good player. He's going to be a big time prospect and he loves Carolina, but he needs a reason to go to Carolina. So now that he has committed to Carolina, what were some of the selling points and what kind of player is he?
Yeah, no doubt. Brian Doan wrote a great piece with him. He got him on the phone yesterday. But yeah, very talented kid. I mean, just look at the offer list. Like sometimes these kinds of things are really simple. It's like when you have a kid who's still, 2 years out from signing on the dotted lines and you pull up that offer list and it says schools like, what are they, or the national schools? Like, come on.
Let me jump in.
Georgia. Right here. No, I got them too.
Okay.
Georgia, Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Texas, Texas A&M, Tennessee. Like we're talking a big time national kid in your backyard. And a lot of times, I mean, I don't need to tell you this, like when you get a kid and it's like everyone in the country is recruiting him, the SEC is recruiting him, the Big Ten's recruiting him. Sometimes UNC just doesn't get a chance in those kinds of recruitments. But not only did UNC get a chance, they got him locked up early. Now, of course, you're going to have to guard your yard. You have to make sure that he signs on the dotted lines come, next December. But yeah, I mean, this is a school that Belichick and his staff have shown that they have an ability to go in and keep them home, right? That was the same school as the Griffin Haynes twins who committed. And there's a few other targets that they have offers out in the class as well. So listen, I think it's a nice sign that they were able to expand on. We're not just going to California to get our entire class. We're going to stay in our backyard and we're going to take a talented kid to fill a need, because running back is definitely going to be a spot where they're going to need a talent infusion, I would think. Amorion is not walking through the door anymore. No. But yeah, I mean, it was a big pickup for them to land early in the process, no doubt.
So when you were in the recruiting office at Carolina, and this is something that we had to deal with a lot covering recruiting, is there are some kids that are big time that there was not a whole lot of dialogue between the programs. And our read and some of the sources that we had would say, look, this kid's determined to be national. He's made his mind up about North Carolina. Maybe there's a stigma or about staying home and not being big time enough, or whatever the case may be. I'm sure that you guys dealt with that and knew that when you were there. Now that Bill Belichick is there and your time kind of perusing the landscape, is that something that is not going to be a factor for this program, especially if they get off to a good start and win, that North Carolina is national? So you can be at Rolesville, North Carolina and go 28, 30 miles down the road and play at a program that might be viewed down the road, very soon down the road, like some of the big guys that have lured a lot of kids out of this area.
Well, I think a lot of it starts with a willingness. Obviously, Mac Brown, his name spoke for itself. Like, he had a great career, Hall of Fame career. But the way that he personally liked to recruit was he didn't want to go too far. He wanted kids where their parents could drive to the game, where you keep it in like a tight-knit area of where you would offer and target kids. Bill Belichick is thinking, I just want to get the best kids possible. I'll go to California. I'll go to Texas. I'll go to the Midwest. I'll go up north. Like, there's no like there's no place that he isn't willing to go out there and target kids. So I think that willingness, where you have a brand name, like you're UNC, no offense to like Wake Forest, right? Like Wake Forest doesn't have the kind of reach that UNC has, where you have Jordan, the brand on the logo is your guy.
Yeah.
Like UNC is a brand that's known nationwide. So you shouldn't have an issue going out there and getting kids interested. Now, of course, winning on the field has a lot to do with it. And we'll see how that goes this fall. Like sometimes, there's like a new car smell when you have a new coaching staff and a new brand to sell. But how things go on the field will have a lot to do with, man, that message he sold us, I see the vision, right? Like he's going out there and he's doing it. Or if they struggle a little bit, they might not be able to go out and be like, well, he's saying this, but we still need to see it.
Exactly. And the other part of this too, and some of the kids that we'd spoken with over the last 7 months or so, 8 months, is that when Bill Belichick and Michael Lombardi say 33rd NFL franchise, 33rd NFL team, they mean it in so many ways. And they've outlined a lot about from the diet to the various types of training and film study and that kind of thing. It's also in recruiting, because if you want to play in the NFL and you play at San Diego State and the New England Patriots draft you, you got to get on a plane and fly to New England. And you got to go play there. You can't choose at that point. Here, he's telling these kids, look, if you want to play in the NFL, and this is the best place for you, but we happen to be on the other side of the country, you got to get on a plane and go there and play to become what you can be, if you believe that's the right place for you. And it's worked. They have 8 guys from California on the roster right now, and they're going to bring more in. And they've got a commitment from Arizona in the class. They got a few from Texas. It's very impressive that he's kind of shortened the distance, if you will, from where a lot of these kids live, simply because of the message. And the reality is that in a couple of years, if you reach your goal, you're going to have to go wherever you have to go.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's a good message to have, but once again, what happens if there's some failure on the field? That's where I get like a little hesitation, where it's like, it makes sense, right? Like you want to sell that pitch, but at the end of the day, kids are going to have questions, like every kid is going to be different, no doubt. But sometimes, like, even if you do land a kid from California, they come to campus for a year and they're like, I believed in the message, right? I want to move across the country because it's good for me. But then they get homesick, So the one thing that I would say about, Mac Brown's plan, right? Like the whole keeping kids close to home, is those kids are not as liable to get sick, of like, oh man, I'm so far from home. Like they have that community that they grew up in, and a lot of their folks and friends and family can drive to the games. It's a very homely kind of thing for them, where you can get a little concerned, right? If things go south, if anything bad happens, like, are you going to be able to keep those kids that fly from all over the country in the boat? It's possible, very possible, especially in a day and age where there's a dollar and cent kind of incentive for them to be there. But yeah, no, I think it's something that we're all going to have to learn over time. Is it a viable strategy or not? And I'm sure if it isn't, maybe they adjust it and they think about, hey, maybe we should recruit the area closer to here a little bit more strongly than they were to start the first year.
To your point, Mac told me one time a couple of years ago about when you have an open date, kids love the open day because they get a chance to fully cut the cord for a couple of days. And everybody needs that in every line of work. We've all experienced that before. And if you're from if you're from California, like Don Chapman was, you can't go home Thursday night and come back Sunday morning for practice Sunday. It's too, but you're going to waste too much time. It's going to wear you out. You're not going to get out of the open date part that you really want. You have to go home with another guy, or you just stay on campus. And he said it was very important these kids go home, sleep in their own bed for a couple of nights, eat mom's cooking, and be able to fully detach, and then they come back fresh. And that was something he said was very underrated with the whole roster building part, was the ability to get away, get home and be in familiar territory, even if it's just for 48 hours, and then come back. So when you have guys from all over the place, it's very hard to do that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, from a strategy standpoint, I get it. Like as a human, it makes a lot of sense to build a roster that way. The problem, and it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, this is a business, and this is a wins and losses business. And I felt like a lot of the time, Mac and his staff were kind of cutting themselves off from the talent pool, just by their own admission, right? Like, not only were they saying, yeah, we're not going to offer kids from, states that are too far away from us, and, outside of like a few like select recruitments, but there were even some like local spots that they kind of neglected. Like, to be honest with you, we barely recruited Maryland. And I mean, Maryland is very drivable. Like, even in like 2023, I feel like we didn't recruit Virginia as hard as we did in the past. I mean, I felt like towards the end of Mac's tenure, it was like in-state kids and Georgia. Like, I felt like those were the two spots where they were recruiting. And you can't just cut yourself off from 48 other states, right? Like, you need to recruit the entire country. And if you want to put a little bit more of an emphasis on, North Carolina, the states surrounding you, you can. But I don't think in any way you should just be cutting your pool in half and then even further. Like, I think that was a big mistake towards the end of his tenure.
Yeah, Virginia, they were really hot in the Tidewater area for a while, and also in the Richmond area, quite a few prospects there they were able to bring in. A lot of them left. Most of them left. And then Dre was let go, and that didn't help some of the things there. And I think that kind of made it a little bit more tougher, more difficult for them to kind of get into some of the houses they needed to. And I think they must have just said, well, we got to really zero in on what we think we can get and go that way. And that's sometimes a sign of a program. I always describe it as a coach coiling up into a corner. And there are a variety of ways that you see that from my vantage point. Many coaches I've covered that have gotten fired. But that's one of those little things you can look at and say, okay, they're sort of shriveling. They're going into a corner a little bit because the landscape they once viewed as being this big is now this big. And it's hard to go from here to here, back to here again. Very, very difficult. And that's one of many reasons why ultimately what happened. Anything else, Seth? This is everybody's first introduction to you. You want to shout out anything else about yourself? Want to pound your chest at all?
I don't know if I've got like too much more to add, but no, we've got some great stories already up on the site. I know Blair wrote a good story about our defensive tackle commit from Friday that we will not try to butcher his name again. Yes. And also Tom Loy wrote up on Carson Sneed, the tight end who committed. So yeah, go look on our site. We've got some good recruiting content there, and we'll have plenty more, especially once the season starts up.
Yeah, the combination of the national guys with you, phenomenal. I mean, for me, given where I came from, this is amazing that we're going to have so many sharp minds on football recruiting for the Tar Heels. And we got somebody that's been in that room where decisions are made, and that's going to be very, very valuable moving forward. Seth Gutman, our new director of football recruiting. By the way, quick reminder, I should have done this earlier, 75% off promo with the launch. It's still going on. Sign up, 75% off 1-year subscription to Tar Heel 24/7. And you can read all of Seth's stuff if you subscribe, because most of it's going to be premium, Seth.
Yep.
All right. He's Seth. I'm AJ. We appreciate you stopping by.